All year, I have been thinking about playing the Kricketune-line, but then I look at Kricketot's move pool, and I start to have second thoughts. This thing is very similar to Caterpie, Weedle, early generation bugs, because it doesn't get any TM moves, and through level up it only has Growl, Bide, and Bug Bite. You might think this is okay, but then you look at the levels and you realize it starts with only Growl and Bide. Two moves that have anti-synergy together, because Growl lowers attack, then the enemy does less damage and Bide pays back less. The first rival battle in Pokemon Platinum is actually challenging because of this moveset, but I can win. I can use Bide, he can attack in with Scratch, and then I can unleash energy. I just have to time things perfectly. It's also worth noting that now in Generation 4, Bide has increased priority. So even if I'm underspeeding, I am still going to move first with it and then absorb damage and pay at least something back. Gone are the days of Misty's Starmie outspeeding using Tackle, then your Pokemon using Bide and Misty's Starmie spamming Harden the entire time you're accumulating energy. Another Generation 4 mechanic that I need to talk about is Struggle, because unlike earlier generations, it deals 25% of the Pokemon's maximum HP in recoil whenever it's used. This makes it a move that is completely unspammable for training in the early game, so I am going to have to use Bide in order to grind up until a level where I either evolve or learn Bug Bite. This is where the surprises with Kricketot begin. It has a medium slow growth rate, so it's going to be leveling up fairly quickly in the early game. Also, like earlier generation bugs, while it does not have a cocoon middle stage, it still evolves very quickly, reaching its final form at only level 10. So by level up, I am not going to learn Bug Bite. Instead, I am simply going to go to 10 as fast as possible, fighting wild Pokemon. This is all really annoying. While I'm doing this, I should mention the fact that there is one fault on the faults counter right now. I didn't notice this while I was playing. I don't know how I didn't. Maybe I looked up there and thought, yeah, I basically have lost. I'm having to use Bide in the early game. I will correct for this when I read out the final metrics at the end of the run. You'll just have to do a little bit of mental math and subtract 1 from the fault counter every time you're looking at it. I guess I should talk about base stats. Kricketot has 37 HP, 25 attack, 41 defense and special defense, and 25 speed and special attack. But these stats are only relevant for 11 minutes of the playthrough, because then I get to level 10 and evolve into Kricketune. This evolution brings with it a big upgrade. I learn Fury Cutter right away, and that's gonna let me get through the early game fairly quickly. I put it in slot number 1 because there is no way that I ever want to use Bide again. The rival now is easy, even though his Pokemon resist my attacks. Starly's a flying type and Chimchar is a fire type, but both of them don't have moves that are super effective. It takes a while for Fury Cutter to stack up damage, but eventually it's doing more than enough, and I one-shot his ace. After this battle, I teach Return just for a little bit of flexibility. Right now its base power is only 48, and while this move is good in Pokemon Platinum, I don't foresee that I'm going to be using it long-term in this playthrough, because Kricketune gets a much expanded move pool. Through level up, it gets Leech Seed at 14, Sing at 18, Focus Energy at 22, Slash at 26, X-Scissor at 30, Screech at 34, Taunt at 38, Night Slash at 42, Bug Buzz at 46, and Perish Song at 50. As far as level up sets go in Generation 4, I think this one's pretty solid. Slash, X-Scissor, and Night Slash are all very useful moves. Sing might have a niche, but I'm hoping I don't need to use it because 55% accuracy is infuriating. Through TM and HM, Kricketune gets access to limited coverage. Really only Brick Break, Aerial Ace, and Rock Smash. But for utility, it does get some interesting moves. Silverwind, just in case I want to get an Omni boost, but more importantly, Swords Dance. I love that in Generation 4, they made the regional Pokemon like Staraptor, as well as Kricketune, actually useful, because with Swords Dance, this thing's gonna hit really hard in the later stages of the game. And that's despite the fact that its base stat total is only 384. It has 77 HP, 65 speed, 85 attack, 55 special attack, and 51 defense and special defense. So it's a physical attacker with all right speed, and it's terrible at defending, outside of the fact that its HP stat is surprisingly high. In the early game, I'm a little bit worried about Rourke, so I fight a bunch of trainers, and by the time I finish off youngster Darius, the last trainer inside of the gym, I'm level 17 because the medium slow growth rate is amazing at this stage of the game. I think with Fury Cutter, I should be able to take on Rourke. The downside to using Fury Cutter is that if it misses, typically I'm going to end up losing if I'm taking super effective damage from the enemy Pokemon. And on turn 2 I miss, preventing my combo from getting set up quickly. Because of this, Geodude attacks with Rock Throw a lot and takes Kricketune down to 9 hit points. I do finish it, but Fury Cutter didn't stack up enough because of the miss, so Onix is able to survive, go for Rock Throw, and that's a loss. This is the first correct fault of the playthrough. In the next run, I don't miss on the Geodude. Because of this, I stack up enough to one-shot the Onix, and this is really close because Kricketune's on 3 HP. I need to not miss. Before that, I level up to 18, learn Sing in the place of Growl, and then against the Cranidos I cross my fingers. Please. It ends up hitting, and I have enough damage to one-shot Rourke's Ace. As I get ready to fight Commander Mars, I want to quickly talk about Kricketune's ability. It's Swarm, and this is different from Kricketot, which had Shed Skin, kind of suggesting that Kricketot is the cocoon form of this Pokemon, which is sort of weird. Anyway, Swarm is essentially Blaze, but for the bug type. If I have equal to or lower than 1/3 HP, my bug type moves will be increased in damage by 50%. And you're going to see this reflected on the overlay during the Commander Mars battle. After I knock out the Zubat, it goes back and forth for quite some time against the Purugly. But when it brings me down to low health, 14 specifically, the effective power of both Fury Cutter and Leech Life jump up. I haven't yet tracked down the counter for Fury Cutter, so its base power is static. Back to the fight with Commander Mars, this one ends up being really close because with Fury Cutter I get a critical hit and I'm not able to knock out the Purugly. It goes down to orange health, then attacks one more time with Feint Attack, which Kricketune survives on 3 hit points, and Fury Cutter hits for the knockout. In Eterna Forest, I always like to talk about Brianna and her Pachirisu. It's so annoying with Static and Spark, it usually causes paralysis and sometimes a loss, but not today for Kricketune. Okay, heading into the Eterna City gym, this one should be really easy. I have an advantage here as a mono bug type, and I think that Fury Cutter is just going to completely demolish her team. Let's see. Turtwig is first. This Pokemon likes to set up with Reflect, which for once would be an advantage, but turn 1 it goes for Sunny Day. Fury Cutter is building in power. I was hoping for a Reflect, but no, it doesn't do this. It just goes for Razor Leaf against my bug type, which does almost nothing. She tries to heal it with a Super Potion. This gives me time for Fury Cutter to stack up its damage, and then I finish her lead. Cherrim is next. Fury Cutter one-shots. Roserade is last. Will I one-shot this one? The answer is yes. The result of this battle is as easy as I was expecting. Time for a major item upgrade. I go back to the old chateau and pick up the Insect Plate, which boosts the damage of bug type moves by 20%. Then inside the haunted building, I grab the Big Pearl. This is an item I don't talk about in here a lot, but it is very useful for Pokemon that want to buy Swords Dance in Veilstone City. I also pick up the Dread Plate. This is in case I want to pair it with Night Slash later on, but I don't think it's going to be useful. Substitute, on the other hand, will be helpful against Fantina, who's coming up soon. Before that, I have to fight Juniper, and to prepare for her, I wanted to level up one more time, so I fight this Fisher, defeating his Goldeen, going to level 26. This way Kricketune can learn Slash, which I put in the place of Sing. Against Commander Jupiter, you can see that Return and Slash have identical base powers right now, but Slash has upside for critical hits. Unfortunately, I don't get one on the Zubat, and it does survive, giving it a chance to use Wing Attack, which does about a quarter. I knock it out on the next turn, Skuntank comes in, I start using Fury Cutter here, but this is not the right choice. Poison Gas hits, which is always an unlikely event, Night Slash crits, and I do end up losing. What I can do instead is stack up Fury Cutter on the Zubat, which resists it. Then, once I knock out the Zubat, I am really rolling, and I can do massive damage to the Skuntank. Not enough to one-shot, even with a critical hit, but I'm able to survive Night Slash, hit with one more Fury Cutter, and that's all I need. This was another close fight for Kricketune. Inside Wayward Cave, I pick up a rare candy. I didn't want to try to save time and skip useful items with Kricketune. After all, it is a regional bug. I'm sure at some point it's gonna start underperforming. Outside of Hearthome City, I fight one trainer. This levels Kricketune up to 30, and I teach X-Scissor in the place of Fury Cutter. This has implications very soon. I grab the Shell Bell, the Amulet Coin, then I run into a trainer inside of the gym. I get confused, and this status condition is awful for Kricketune. It really is its Achilles heel. Right now a little bit less than it will be later on. I end up having to take a reset here, which is pretty frustrating. But in my second fight against Catherine, I'm able to take revenge. But this battle was not a good omen, considering Fantina the Ghost-type specialist is next, and her Pokemon have Confuse Ray. Duskull, Dusclops, Dusknoir, one of those Pokemon is first. I always get it wrong in these videos. I set up Substitute, after that use the X-Scissor. I can knock it out fairly quickly, but this made me realize I think I should have deleted Leech Life and kept Fury Cutter, because it could stack up damage against the Duskull, which is awful defensively, and then do much more damage to the Mismagius that comes out second. Instead, I do roughly 1/3 with X-Scissor, which is my best move here, and then it breaks Kricketune Substitute. With no Substitute in place and the fact that I have 4 less speed than her ace, she moves first with Confuse Ray before I reset my defense. And trying to play defensively doesn't even make sense because Shadow Ball just breaks it right away, Kricketune hits itself, Shadow Ball does a ton of damage, and I try X-Scissor, but it's not enough. There's no way for me to go back and get Fury Cutter again now, so I'm stuck with this moveset trying to make it work. Swarm is helpful, giving me additional damage against the Mismagius in the next battle, and I knock it out moving onto the Haunter. But my damage is just barely not good enough to two-shot. Because of this, she heals with a Super Potion, giving the Haunter more turns to attack for chip damage with Shadow Claw. I can't believe this, but I am not able to two-shot the Haunter even though I rolled better damage. It survives with this tiny, painful sliver of health and knocks out Kricketune. The solution here is actually fairly straightforward. Just attack the Mismagius, get the Swarm boost, knock it out, then reset Substitute on the Haunter since Shadow Claw is doing very little damage. After that, on turn 2, I use Leech Life for chip damage, and then X-Scissor to knock it out, avoiding the Super Potion. The close fights continue. Kricketune pulls through this one with only 15 health remaining. The rival is next. His lead is unfortunate for Kricketune. Its ability is Intimidate, so I lose attack, and it also has Wing Attack, which is super effective. It resists X-Scissor. I still made the mistake and used the move once before I figured out that Return is obviously the better choice here. Luckily, the Staravia only hit with a single Wing Attack, and I knock it out and move on to the Monferno. Return is going to 3-hit, but I'm not sure I'm going to tank 2 Flame Wheels. In this case, not even 1 because it gets a critical hit. I tried again, but then I miss against the Staravia, and it's spamming Wing Attack, doing tons of damage. And when it gets Kricketune low enough, it just goes for Quick Attack, and that's it. I'm going to backtrack, fight some trainers, grind on wild Pokemon, and level up to 33 over the next damage rounding threshold. I was hoping this would help, but then Staravia goes for Endeavor, depleting most of my health before the Monferno. I need to get lucky against his lead, or potentially Substitute could be useful here. At level 33, I can two-shot using Return. That's nice. Then Monferno comes out. I still have my defense in place. I was hoping for a two-shot, but I'm not gonna get it. But there is still hope, because the rival, instead of choosing Flame Wheel, goes for Leer, and Substitute completely blocks this status move. Due to this, I have the time I need to finish off his ace, and the final 2 Pokemon aren't a threat for Kricketune. Route 215 has Ruin Maniac Calvin. His Shieldon is pretty annoying as a Rock Steel type to knock out using either normal or bug type moves. But fate aligns for me here. The experience from the Bronzor levels Kricketune to 34, giving it Screech, which I teach in the place of Leech Life. With the new move, I can lower its defense and knock out the Shieldon quicker. There is only one more obstacle before I make it to Veilstone City, and that's beating Ace Trainer Dennis. Note during this fight that I have forgotten to equip the Amulet coin up until this point, so I haven't earned enough Pokédollars to get access to Swords Dance right away. But that's not the end of the world. I can sell a bunch of items in the department store, and I can also pick up high-priced items in Veilstone City. For example, this hidden star piece. Coming up next is Maylene, a fighting type specialist, and I would like to have a flying type move to fight her. And I can accomplish this as well as earning more money by going south of Veilstone City. On my way to Pastoria City, I can pick up the Aerial Ace TM, which I teach in the place of Screech. Okay, now I want to show you something that I haven't mentioned before in these Pokemon Platinum videos. To the west of Pastoria City and just south of Hearthome City, there are these 2 trainers which are kind of a duo, Socialite Rena and Gentleman Jeremy. Both of them, when you have the Amulet coin equipped, give $10,800 as a prize for their battles, and they only have a single Pokemon on their team. This is a really fast way to earn money if you're working towards a TM in the game corner. Now I have enough money. I grab the coin case, sell all of my money for coins, and then purchase Swords Dance, which is a good setup alternative to Substitute. It's more offensive in nature, but that's fine. I think it pairs better with X-Scissor, Return, and Aerial Ace. Now, let's head into the gym. During the mandatory trainer battle here, I level up to 42, and I end up dropping Return in favor of having access to Night Slash. It's always nice to discard a generic move in favor of something that has a little bit more personality. Still, it's not going to be useful right away, because I'm going to be spamming Aerial Ace against Maylene. Meditite is a great Pokemon to go up against first for Kricketune. I can set up Swords Dance here, and then I can strike with super effective Aerial Ace. I only went to +2 because I didn't think any more was needed. I one-shot the Meditite as well as the Machoke. Lucario comes out. It is a Steel type, but Metal Claw isn't doing much damage. And Aerial Ace 2 shots. Now it's time for rapid fire major battles. I have to fight the rival outside of Crasher Wake's gym. He leads with Staravia, but I now have a move that bypasses accuracy checks, so setting up Swords Dance to counter out Intimidate, and then even going for further setup might make sense here. You know what doesn't make any sense? Setting up Swords Dance only once, then trying Night Slash, missing the move, letting the Staravia set up even more, and then using Aerial Ace to 2-shot. I have no idea what I was thinking here. It doesn't actually matter because I one-shot the following Monferno, and from there the rest of the battle is a foregone conclusion. Watching myself play these runs is sometimes so frustrating and off-putting. I think it's similar to other people listening to themselves in a recorded format. Your voice always sounds dramatically different to how it sounds to you inside your head. It can be a really weird and off-putting experience. I'm so used to it now though after making these videos for 5 years. Let's put that aside and fight Crasher Wake, one of the most notoriously difficult gym leaders in Pokemon Platinum. For physical attackers without Swords Dance, this fight is brutal because the Intimidate from Gyarados messes everything up. I was hoping I would be able to set up Swords Dance 2 or 3 times here, regaining all of my attack, but Waterfall is doing a lot of damage. Kricketune's low defenses are really showing here. I go for Night Slash, but with +3, it's not enough to knock out, and then Gyarados gets the KO with its 3rd Waterfall. During that battle I was holding the Amulet coin. If I instead hold the Shell Bell, then I can set up to +3, attack the Gyarados with Night Slash, and even though I don't KO, I gain back enough health to survive 1 more Waterfall on 9 hit points, and then 2-shot after a Hyper Potion. Because Wake was trying to heal his lead, I then gain back more health with the Shell Bell, but I still only have 22 hit points for the remaining Pokemon. Now, Quagsire's an easy one-shot with X-Scissor, but the Floatzel is faster than Kricketune, and I'm a little bit worried. Under half health, Brine will do double damage, but instead of being smart, Crasher Wake chooses Crunch, which leaves Kricketune on 7 hit points, giving me a chance to use X-Scissor. And of course at +3 it's enough. You know who might be the scariest random trainer in this run? The guy with Probopass in the foggy area. I really didn't want to go up against this thing. Luckily today I'm able to dodge him successfully. Also because of the passive weather, it's so nice to have Aerial Ace at this point in the game. The first battle against Cyrus is pretty simple because his Ice Punches from Sneasel aren't doing much damage. I set up to +2, knocked out his lead. Golbat takes 2 hits, which does expose me to Supersonic. I'm lucky he didn't afflict me with a status condition. It's at this point that I should have clued into the fact that Kricketune really needs to be running a Person Berry in almost every battle. The Shell Bell is okay as a held item, but countering out Confusion for a Swords Dance user is far more potent. Unfortunately, I'm not going to realize this during the entire playthrough. This was an epiphany that came to me when reviewing this footage. But the rival in Canalave City doesn't have confusion-inducing moves, so it's not a risk during this battle. Instead, I'm just going to set up while the Staraptor goes for Double Team, and then when it finally attacks with Aerial Ace, I'm going to start attacking myself. Since it's set up with Double Team, I'm going to use Aerial Ace to bypass accuracy checks, and at +5 I have more than enough damage. Infernape is next, and before I attack, I want to look at the speed stats here. Infernape has 91 and Kricketune has 90, so the Fire-type moves first, hits with Flame Wheel, and does so much damage. Kricketune survives on red health, uses Aerial Ace, and one-shots, but I'm not through the difficulty yet. While I can take care of the Heracross in 1 turn, the Floatzel has priority with Aqua Jet, which it does go for, and it gets a critical hit. But Kricketune survives with 6 hit points. I one-shot the Floatzel, as well as the following Roserade. The number of close battles in this run is starting to get a little bit absurd. I didn't want this trend to continue inside of the Steel-type gym. Luckily, Brick Break is the perfect solution. To get this TM, I can fly back to Orberg City and explore the basement floor of Orberg Gate. I think dropping Night Slash right now makes the most sense. Dark-type moves for coverage aren't particularly good at this point in the game, since I already have the Psychic-type user Lucian covered with X-Scissor. Steelix is covered by Swords Dance and Brick Break, but Ace Trainer's Caesar Scissor with Slash and X-Scissor is able to get a win because I overset up with Swords Dance. Instead, I only want to go to +2 and then start attacking with Brick Break, which can then 2-shot his Pokemon. But this fight still ends up being pretty close, and Caesar is essentially the gym leader. After all, from here the battles are easy. I am so glad I'm saying saying that, watch me set up Swords Dance here and then one-shot every one of these Bronzor. This is payback for all of my other solo challenges. Time for Byron, one of the worst gym leaders of all time. I'm sure this will be really easy. He leads with Magneton. It could go for Thunderbolt. Usually it likes to go for Metal Sound. Instead it does attack this time, but only does about 1/3. And with +2, I think I'll just have enough damage with Brick Break for everything. I one-shot the Magneton. I have 4 times damage on the Bastiodon, easily clearing it. I can't one-shot the Steelix, but it just goes for Flash Cannon. You would think that maybe this Pokemon, which evolved from a Rock type, might have a Rock type move. And technically it does, but it's Sandstorm. Was Flash Cannon really its best option here? Anyway, as expected, Byron is a complete pushover. On the other hand, Commander Saturn, who is usually awful, is not a pushover. This Golbat has Air Cutter, and it also has Supersonic. These two fights are great examples of where I should be more careful in holding a Person Berry. For whatever reason, when I started playing Pokemon Platinum, I was always picking up every single Person Berry as I went through the runs, but then I just never used them against trainers because a lot of the battles, like these ones, were typically quite easy for Pokemon to manage. I started by picking up the Person Berries because in Generation 3 they are by far the best held item in Emerald version, but then here with a little bit more experience in Platinum I found them less and less useful, and now I started skipping them to save time. But with a Swords Dance user, that's definitely a mistake, and in the future I'm gonna have to correct that. This conversation of held items perfectly pairs with the next trainer, Dalton. I think for this fight I should be holding a Cherry Berry because the Electabuzz is so awful. If it's not paralyzing you with Static, it's gonna be paralyzing you with Thunder Wave, which is what happens here. And then because I'm slower than the Magmar due to the status condition, it just goes for Flamethrower and beats Kricketune. By the way, I don't win on my next attempt. The Electabuzz once again paralyzes and Magmar finishes me with Flamethrower for a second time in a row. This guy is so annoying. It's time for a first. Rare candies before Ace Trainer Dalton. I take Kricketune from level 51 up to level 63 before attempting him again. Instead of risking the Thunder Wave, I'm just going to attack right away with X-Scissor and knock out the Electabuzz. Of course, I trigger Static and move on to the Magmar Paralyzed. Luckily, at the higher level, Flamethrower is only able to do about half, and then with Brick Break, which is my best move, I am able to one-shot despite not setting up with Swords Dance. Dalton is now behind me. Time to move on to Candace. Her Sneasel has super effective Aerial Ace, but it's doing roughly 1/5 in damage, so I can take my time setting up with Swords Dance as much as I want. She's an Ice type specialist, and Brick Break is going to be exceptional here, so I only set up to +4 and then start my sweep. Sneasel goes down, Piloswine is second, and she doesn't send out Abomasnow because it's a Grass type, so Snow Warning does not set up Snow Cloak on the Frostlass, but I still use Aerial Ace. It has the same effective power as X-Scissor, and with +4, it's able to one-shot. That leaves only the Abomasnow, and Aerial Ace easily destroys it. Time for me to continue referencing moments where Swords Dance users can use Person Berries against Cyrus number 2 because his Crobat has Supersonic. That said, if I'm using a bug type, he's probably instead going to choose something like Poison Fang or Air Cutter. But the fight went badly for me against the Sneasel. This one doesn't have Aerial Ace, so instead it goes for Screech, lowering my physical defense, and Crobat is going to move first against Kricketune. I felt it was too risky to go to +4, and due to that I am not able to one-shot the Crobat, but Poison Fang just isn't doing enough damage, and even with the status condition, X-Scissor one-shots the following Honchkrow. Commander Saturn, probably good to have a Person Berry here, multiple Confuse Ray users. The multi-battle at the top of Mount Coronet, I'm not showing you their teams on the right-hand side of the screen. I have to do a bit of coding in order for that to be possible. Anyways, they have multiple Confuse Ray users here, and because of the status condition, I do take one reset, so finally I'm paying for my mistakes. Still, Confusion isn't really that good, and I target down one of their teams first, so I'm able to pull through with a victory in my next attempt. Now, time for the Distortion World and what is typically the most difficult battle of the entire playthrough, and I think today that is going to be the case. Cyrus leads with a Houndoom, which loves using Will-O-Wisp and Flamethrower. Swords Dance plus a Burn on turn 1 counter each other out, but then Flamethrower deals massive damage, so I'm not going to be able to set up much beyond this, especially because after early generation games, I do take damage every turn from my status conditions. This isn't going to be possible to win anymore for Kricketune, so I quickly automatically reset. Maybe if he goes for Flamethrower on turn 1, I can set up a single Swords Dance and then one-shot the Houndoom and sweep the remainder of his team. This seems like it's working out. I take care of the Houndoom, the Haunch Crow, and then I two-shot the Crobat, taking damage from cross poison in the process. In this case, the Shell Bell is really helping me out, and I think it's the perfect item for this battle. But the problem now is that Gyarados triggers Intimidate, lowering my attack stat, and I have to two-shot. It has time to attack with Waterfall, then Weavile comes out, uses Fake Out, and Kricketune faints. There are so many rare candies available in Pokemon Platinum, so I still have 5 left over. I'm going to use them now to try again at level 71. Still, this doesn't help out enough. If I'm afflicted by Burn, it's going to be a loss. If I get hit by Flamethrower and set up once, my health just isn't high enough and I end up losing later in the battle after wasting a bunch of time. Kricketune is going to need to get lucky here. Houndoom can use Will-O-Wisp, miss, giving me a free turn of setup, and then allowing me to sweep. I hate that this is how I thought I was going to win the battle, but then the Crobat does tons of damage, and because of it, I'm left on red health by the time the Gyarados comes out. Oh no, I'm going to lose again. Unless Gyarados misses with one of its moves, and that's what happens. Ice Fang just whiffs, and because of that, I knock out the Gyarados and then X-Scissor the Weavile down. Volkner, it is lucky that I got here. X-Scissor, one-shots, two-shots the Luxray, one-shots the Electivire, one-shots the Raichu. Volkner is always so bad. Okay, well we've got some time to kill, let's talk about the tier list. Right now, Kricketune's time is 2 hours and 7 minutes. That means it's on track for an A tier finish. It's not going to be able to squeeze into the S tier, but I think in a second playthrough, it would be able to get a time under 2 hours and 10 minutes. This is a pleasant surprise. In comparison with other evolutionary lines, Kricketune starts off in one of the worst states, but still it's able to put out a really solid performance. That is, unless the final 6 battles of the game cause major issues. The rival before the Elite Four is fairly straightforward. He has a Staraptor, but it only knows Aerial Ace, which is not the best flying type move. This gives me time to set up with Swords Dance twice, boosting my attack to +3. Both X-Scissor or Brick Break are able to get the knockout now. I'm not sure about Aerial Ace, but I think it would. This time around, I am faster than the Infernape. Heracross takes 4 times damage. Brick Break is super effective against Snorlax, leaving only Floatzel and Roserade, both of which don't stand a chance. So far, Kricketune has good momentum. Let's keep it going with the Elite Four. Aaron, the Bug-type specialist, is first. I have Aerial Ace, I have Swords Dance. I think this is gonna go well. Yanmega on turn 1 goes for Air Slash and does ridiculous damage. That wasn't even with a critical hit. And unless I attack now, I am going to lose because the next Air Slash should knock out Kricketune. The problem is Yanmega has Speed Boost, so now it's faster than Kricketune and it knocks me out on the next turn. Alright, a loss to Aaron's first Pokemon is not what I was expecting. My confidence is getting a little bit shaken here. If I just attack right away against the Yanmega, then I still don't one-shot with Aerial Ace. This allows him to use a full restore and get a bunch of speed boosts, eventually hitting with Air Cutter, bringing me under half health before his second Pokemon. Luckily for me, it's Vespiquen, and its special attack is quite low. Due to this, if it goes for Power Gem, which is super effective, I think I'll be able to tank a hit. So I take some time here to set up with Swords Dance. It went for Defend Order first, so I squeeze in a second one, then it uses Attack Order, doing some damage, and I'm pretty sure I won't survive a Power Gem now. I finish it with Aerial Ace, Drapion goes down to X-Scissor, Heracross falls to Aerial Ace, and Scissor is last. I'm not sure if I'm going to one-shot the Steel type. Brick Break is my best damage, and with +4, I do pull it off. There is a major role reversal going on right now, because usually Aaron is easy and Bertha is extremely difficult, but against Kricketune, the Whiscash can't really do anything. This gives me as much time as I want to set up with Swords Dance. I think for safety, I should have gone to +6, knowing that she has some very defensive Pokemon, especially when I'm using physical moves, but I only went to +4. Because of this, I have to two-shot the Gliscor, taking some damage from Fire Fang in the process. I started to worry at this point, maybe the Rhyperior is going to be able to attack, maybe even the Golem, but no, with +4, I have enough damage to one-shot both of them. Flint, also a trainer who's usually easy. I expect him to be difficult today because I struggled with Aaron. So I'm going to use rare candies here and bring Kricketune up to level 80. That depletes my reserves of these items. I'm going to have to make this level work from here on out. Just like Cyrus Cyrus, he leads with Houndoom, which I personally find a little bit underwhelming. Maybe they should have made his lead something like Rapidash or Flareon for a little bit of variety. Luckily, this Houndoom is not nearly as good as Cyrus's. Instead of Will-O-Wisp, it has Sunny Day, so usually it likes to set this up before attacking with Flamethrower. I squeeze in one Swords Dance because of this, and then knock out his lead with Brick Break. From there, I just sweep. This is really easy. Until Magmortar, where I critical hit, but Flame Body activates, reducing my physical damage, allowing the Infernape to survive an Aerial Ace hit with Flare Blitz, and this move does so much damage. From nearly full health, it knocks out Kricketune. So the way to win this battle is just not to activate Flame Body, then Aerial Ace one-shots and I never have to tank a Flare Blitz. For this battle, as well as the one against Cyrus, I think there's an argument to be made for holding a Rostberry. Lucian is last, and this one is so simple. I have Brick Break to shatter all of Mr. Mime's screens, and with setup from Swords Dance, X-Scissor can just tear through the remaining Pokemon on his team. I'm actually really excited here. Kricketune is able to one-shot his Bronzong of all Pokemon. That gives me a lot of confidence heading into the final battle of this run. Cynthia's lead Spiritomb is more defensive than offensive. It's still able to do okay damage to Kricketune with Shadow Ball, and I could have squeezed in setup all the way to +6, but instead I wanted to keep my health and start attacking at +4. X-Scissor one-shots Spiritomb, and the sweep continues. Brick Break for Togekiss, as well as Lucario, X-Scissor for Garchomp and Milotic, and Aerial Ace for the final Roserade. The Kricketune-line ends up getting a time of 2 hours 18 minutes and 27 seconds, with 19 resets, 0 blackouts at level 81. Its game time was 7 hours and 33 minutes. I am so pleasantly surprised with this Pokemon. I sat down expecting absolute agony and ended up getting a run that had an A-tier finish. Its result wasn't quite good enough to beat out any of the other A-tier Pokemon, so it's closer to the B-tier, but a result faster than Giratina is good, also faster than Darkrai. I love that. Kricketune is kind of a monster, and while Kricketot was painful, this is a fun run, and I would recommend it to you if you're looking to play a bug type in Generation 4. Okay, so now I have to talk about my plan for this end of the year in Platinum. Originally, I wanted to play a painful early game bug and then follow it up with a painful late game legendary. Unfortunately, I picked an early game bug that ended up crushing the game and doing very well, but I'm still going to hold to the plan and follow this up with a bad legendary Pokemon. Next week, we get to see how Regigigas is going to fare in Pokemon Platinum. If you support my channel on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you tomorrow when Daily December continues.